Which one?
Regular business, action to approve, limited deputy state's attorney.
Okay, you want that removed from the agenda?
No, it doesn't have to be necessarily removed, but
All right, it's 8:30. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. All right, welcome. Call the meeting to order again here, and we'll do an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. I don't see anybody here that will do that, so we'll move on to item 4, which is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve or any changes? Had a motion to approve?
Second.
And a second. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The agenda is approved. Consent agenda items. A is approval of the minutes. B is approval of the travel requests. C is approval of personnel action notices. D is approval of cellular authorizations. E is approval of the human services report. And I believe that's all of them.
I passed out one additional travel request this morning too that was on your desk, at the table in front of you for Bob Hill to attend the NACO annual conference.
Okay, we'll add that one as item F. Okay, have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none, all those in, we'll call the roll on this one.
Pierce. Boersma.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Move on to our routine business. We have claims, approval, motion to approve on the claims.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded on the claims. Any comments on any of the claims? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Boersma.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Pierce. Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B is our department head reports. Under I, you'll see that we've had, Brian's not here today, so we do have a highway report presented to us in our packet. Any questions on that highway report? Hearing none, we will move on to our department head reports. And Jacob, since you're in the first chair, we'll let you go first.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The local boards of equalization met last week across all entities as required by law, I guess. And in total, we had 27 office corrections that were recommendations from our office, things that were brought up from the time assessment notices were sent out to when the boards met. And we also had 10 appeals. Of those appeals, 8 were no changed by the local board, meaning they went with the original assessed value. 2 of those appeals were lowered to the appellant's request. And you could see any number of those 10 appeals come back to county board just by filing their motion to appeal at local board. It opens the door for them to appeal at county. Also, I think I mentioned this before, but if you're not a local property owner, you can also appeal straight to county board, skipping that local step. So we'll find out on April 2nd kind of who we're hearing from and what kind of numbers we're going to be looking at. Also, we'll be interviewing this week to fill the vacant appraiser position within our office, so we should be fully staffed here shortly, which is a good thing because as the weather gets nice, we'll be out doing our summer reviews. This summer, what we have on the slate is a complete countywide commercial review. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any questions for Jacob?
How many applicants
Pierce.
did you end up with for the position?
I think we had 4 applicants in total, and I believe one person had already interviewed for the deputy opening, and they're in consideration, and then we're still working on contacting, but we have 2 on the agenda right now for interviews. 4 total. Yep.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Jacob. Marty, we'll have you do your report next.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'll give you a quick update with the jail. Have 37 inmates at the current time. We made it through pub crawl. I think from Friday night to Sunday, I think there was 14 that came in, and most of those were booked in and released. So we got them in and got them out. So we made it through pub crawl. We're still continuing to stay busy in the 24/7 area. I have 126 participants. We're down on the daily coming in with PBTs. There's only 36 to come in a day, which that helps cut down. Got 14 on Scram. We have 84 on UAs, and they come in twice a week. Now, that's just on 24/7. That doesn't include probation, parole, hope court, or drug court. So I don't have those added in. So that stays busy. So the 24/7 area stays busy. Right now I have 3 on GPS. And I always have contended if we didn't have 24/7, our jail would be overloaded. We are keeping people out of jail with that 24/7 program. So that's really helping. I still stress to the commissioners that I still would like to get the 24/7 edition going. That would help reduce the impact in the control room when these individuals are coming in for the P tests and so forth. And maybe I should have you come in and stand there when all these come in, and you could see the congestion in there. So I would not be doing my Department of Justice if I don't keep stressing the fact that it would help reduce. What I don't like is when they're coming in on 24/7 and I have arrestees, and we got to step over the arrestees to get to so they can go in and do their P tests, and it just gets to be a lot of confusion in there. Anyway, enough of that. The other thing is that 2 weeks ago, we had that snow event, March 14th and 15th, from Thursday night to Friday morning. We had several stranded motorists on Highway 30 from the White, just east of White to the Minnesota border, basically to where Troy Murphy lives up there on the hill. And I don't know his exact address. And the Highway Patrol, or the DOT, decided to close Highway 30. And that's the first time since I've been sheriff that we've closed a secondary road. And how do you close a state highway other than the interstate? They put like 5 cones across the street east of White. Well, that didn't stop many people. And people became stranded on there. And I did call Dakota Drifters, we did call Dakota Drifters out, but then we canceled them. And I just wanted to just state that a farmer up there, Troy Murphy, and he took in, and he has a Facebook, somebody put it on Facebook, he has 13 people standing in his living room. And if it wasn't for Troy Murphy going out and rescuing these people in his payloader, we would have been out there on snowmobiles trying to get these people to safety. So Troy Murphy saved the county and the Highway Patrol a lot of work by not going out. Though we got a call on a person that was stranded at midnight. So we did call the Dakota Drifters to go out to get them. Then the deputy says, call the farmer that's been helping us. And he had already went out and rescued him. So I tried to get a hold of Troy Murphy by phone and left him a message, but he hasn't returned my calls. But I did send him a note thanking him for what he did up there. So I just wanted to note that. It was a mess up there in 14. We called DLT to come up there. Cars were all which way. They couldn't even get through, and they lost traction and stuff. So, and I also called another farmer, Chris Wilmot, and he was on standby too. He was willing to go out and rescue people too if he had a big tractor and so forth. So it's nice to have the citizens help us out when we need it and so forth. So other than that, Bob with Emergency Management is doing a good job monitoring the water and so forth, and now the north water is starting to come, and closing more roads. He'll probably have a better report than I can give you for that and so forth. And then the other thing is, over the past few weeks, I forgot to thank Misty. Misty gave us 4 parking spots in her garage, so that we were having trouble with our cars freezing up underneath and so forth. So we were able to get them in there and thaw them out and so forth. So I thank Misty for making room for us in her area and so forth. If you guys have any questions.
Also, Marty, did you want to mention, instead of waiting 2 weeks, if we could kind of get a consensus from the board to move ahead with filling your full-time correctional officer? I think you had one now that resigned. I think he gave a month's notice, so that's good. But you don't know anything about that?
No. My correctional, which one? Guess I don't know that.
If it's okay, we would post that job now, and then we'd bring the official paperwork at the next meeting. But at least that would give us time to get that, post that for a couple of weeks, and hopefully have someone on board before this individual leaves us.
I guess I have to talk to my jail
You can
minister.
come up here and I'll whisper it in your ear.
Yeah. I just got all the deputies back. We just got those positions filled now. So I have a new one starting April 1st. We just gave an offer to us. The second one, actually, is the third one. So and he'd be 2 weeks down the road for them. So then I'll be up to. All 3 of them have previous experience, so that will help. So their training will be cut in half probably. They just need to learn Brookings County and Brookings County's policies and those types of things. So.
Any other questions for Marty? Commissioner Pierce?
At our last meeting, you talked about the animal control ordinance,
Oh yes.
and I was wondering if we would just like to talk about what kind of procedure we're going to use to review that. I know Stacy sent out samples of other counties' ordinances to everybody to take a look at. And, you know, I looked at those. One of those counties just has a dog ordinance. And I would propose, and we can have more conversation at the right time, that maybe that's the direction we should go, is just having a dog ordinance for that county instead of, I don't know why we have the sheriff's office pick up possum or skunks or whatever. That just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know how the rest of the commission feel about that. But perhaps if we could give him some direction, then maybe the sheriff could work with the state's attorney to come up with a new ordinance for us to consider. Would that be the process?
Yeah, and I agree. The problem is we got a lot of wildlife in our present ordinance. And for an example is just Friday, I had an individual that trapped a skunk at their acreage and then wanted us to come out and shoot it. And you know, it gets to be kind of, first of all, they didn't use a skunk cage because we got skunk cages, you know, and it takes a little unique to shoot the skunk in the cage so you don't get sprayed. Animal control, animal control ended up going out there because the person, you know, there's always going to be circumstances to help someone out. And this person is ill, and I okayed animal control to go out and do it because the person was ill and needed, you know. There are some circumstances, if there's a skunk during the day, you know, maybe we should get it and have it tested. It depends on the situation, but it's getting to the point that we do a lot of, it takes away some of our time because we don't call animal control out on every call. You know, the deputy has to take time to take out. And I agree that probably we should, it'd be nice just to have the dog ordinance because we do a lot of possums and different things now. In the little towns and the contract towns will still probably have to do that because they get a possum in the garage, they want something done, but that's different from out in the county. When you're out in the county, you should expect some of these things that you need to take care of, you know, yourself and stuff, because they want us to come out and shoot it and then take the skunk and bury it or whatever, you know. So it gets to be a lot. So, you know, we got several ordinances, and we'll send eventually something to the state's attorney's office for him to review and so forth. And you know, they adopted that ordinance back in 1998, and It's just that there's more demands on us as time goes on, and we've kind of spoiled the rural residents because we've been willing to come out and get them. And
What's your time frame, Marty, on getting that back to us?
well, I suppose I'd like to get something back to you the month of April or by May 1st for sure. Probably May 1st, first meeting in May, probably.
We'll look at
Depends
that
on the
then.
state's attorney too.
Sure.
And I'll get the stuff to him, and then he's got to have time to review too. And
Is that reasonable time frame?
That sounds good. And the thing about the small towns where we have a contract, which animals are governed by their ordinance would apply, not our ordinance, because those small towns have their own ordinances
Right.
as relates to animals, and we would follow that. So this ordinance really applies to people that are not within municipalities
right.
in the county.
All right. If you need help with that, you have the state's attorney's office, and you'll have Commissioner Pierce, who read the ordinance already.
I do thank you for that because I think it's time that we do that. I appreciate the support on that. So
Any other questions for Marty? Thank you, Marty. Kristen, and you know what, Kristen, you can do your report from right there.
I was going to ask if I could do that. Just a couple of quick things. We have a National Archery in Schools program 3D tournament that is going to be taking place on Friday. There at the range, we're expecting about 230 youth from across the state to be partaking in this tournament. We have one school that's actually sending 91 students just from their location. So we are just a little bit concerned about the parking lot, but Brian said that he's going to drag it for me, and then hopefully over the next couple of days, it can dry out enough that we can fit some buses back in that back area. Sunday, we did have a free range day, and we did get 3 gun memberships and 1 archery membership from that day. We were just consistent pretty much all day throughout that time period from 12 to 5. The Thursday, you'll see a travel request in there. I've been invited to attend the governor's conference for basically wildlife conservation, but within that, it is how do we make it more hunter and gun friendly with those laws? And that kind of stems back to a lot of the people, of course, that use our range. But I'm one of the only people from this side of the state that has been invited. Even our game fish and parks, counterparts within our office wasn't invited. I'm going to play off something real quick for Marty. Starting April 1st, there is a bounty program through Game Fish and Parks to bring in tails of certain wild animals. And I've actually had people ask me if they can drop off skunk tails. So I've told them no. There is another drop-off location, but I've had already people ask me if they can bring me skunk tails. So I'm just going to play off what Marty said there. Something, excuse me, to kind of let you know of that happened last night, and it's already being taken care of by Safe and Secure. Last night or yesterday, we were working on the disabled push buttons that tie into our strikers. And there became a situation at 9 o'clock when we went to close that the north doors, we could lock the inside, but that didn't matter. The door still pulled open. It was like the striker was just permanently unlocked. So we did have to cut power to those doors to end up locking the front doors. Very unique situation. Doubt we'll run into it again. But in that instance, it did cut our alarm capabilities to Safe and Secure. We were on the phone with Brett the whole time. We definitely need to thank, BPD. They sent out one of their supervisors who stayed out there, and they constantly patrolled the area all night, as well as the sheriff's department did. So we didn't have, any issues overnight, and they're getting that fixed today, but it looks like a wire got crossed when they were repairing the handicap push portal. So other than that, we have 9 outside events being held in March, and we did just do a new contract with the VA police, who are going to start using our facility exclusively for all of their range time. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions? Don't see any questions. Thank you, Kristen. Bob, you're going to be next.
Good morning.
Morning.
The highway superintendent, even though he's not here, I can tell you they're definitely earning their pay. They broke up 7 ice jams for us yesterday on the Big Sioux River between Bruce and the North County line. That's really saving a lot of property, or allowing the water to flow at least. We just got notified that the city of Bruce is requesting that the residents of Bruce limit their water use at this time due to the heavy flooding and all the pumps being used for the sewer systems and everything. It's starting to tax their municipal water system, so we just got that call. And right now we got 26 township roads closed. That's an approximate number. We've got several culverts out and several notes from the 911 dispatch center saying culverts may give out soon, roads are closed, 5 feet of road missing, various things. So if the public sees a road closed sign, I wouldn't just arbitrarily drive around it and start driving down the road at 55 miles an hour, because you may find yourself in a big hole. So just be aware of that. Back to my regular report, Sioux Falls Solutions, which is the formerly Sioux Falls Two-Way Radio, has started a study for our communication system. It's going to be in 2 parts. The first part is they sent out a survey to all the fire departments and ambulance services. They're charging us an hourly rate for this. And they sent all the replies out, I believe, on Friday. And as soon as they start to get them back in, they'll compile all the reports. Then they'll sit down and give me a recommendation on what computer simulations need to be run for the county. And then we'll have those run. And then the third step will be to give a written recommendation I bring to you guys, and we figure out which option we want to take. So that's the status of the communication study at this time. It is ongoing at this time. Flooding has been ongoing since March 13th. We've had over 38 tons of sand delivered, and close to 2,000 sandbags have been passed out. The flooding's 2-part. The first part came from that 2-inch rainfall on March 13 and 14, which damaged a lot of basements. We do ask that the public record whatever damages, photograph, but do not wait for any kind of federal assistance. There is no guarantee that there will ever be any federal assistance from this type of flooding that we've got. Fix your basement. If you got insurance, by all means, do your insurance, but just do the best you can with it. If you do have, and there are procedures, if you have damaged basements, there's some documents on how to clean up damaged basements. And then after the big 2-inch rainfall, we had the snow melt and the big 4, the Madera Creek, 6 Mile Creek, Big Sioux River, and now Battle Creek all started flooding on us. Battle Creek comes in from Lake County, and that's what produces most of the damage down around Lake Campbell. The Big Sioux River right now is just running rampant. I was up at Lake Poncet yesterday. They still have a real good snowpack up there and about 20 inches of water or ice on that lake. So the National Weather Service is projecting that this crest of the Big Sioux River, which is going to be occurring this week, will probably last for almost a week. So just keep looking for a lot of water. The county, like I said, the county highway department's doing a good job making sure that there's no ice buildup on our bridge networks. So all we can do is keep going. I am going to take a look at it, and probably at the next meeting, probably bring you in a declaration of emergency. I need to sit down and talk with the highway people on how much it costs to replace culverts and things like that. But the damage is getting so widespread that we feel it's time to support our townships. And if there's a declaration at the state level to the feds and we get approved, if we've got enough damage to sustain that, there's no reason not to assist our townships. And so at the next meeting, we'll have a declaration of emergency, and we'll have more documentation. But, I've been told by several people, you won't find a price such as, I asked the guy about a culvert being washed out, and he said, well, we won't be able to do anything until the water stops, until the snow melt stops and the flooding stops, and then they can fix the culvert. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. There's not going to be set prices on repairs or anything for a good while yet. And you have to realize the declaration time frame, it started March 13th during the blizzard time, but there's no end date yet. So it's going to be an ongoing process. But there has been, I believe, 7 counties already declared an emergency, ranging from Yankton, Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, and some other counties. And I'll prepare a list of all that at the next meeting, so you know who has declared, who hasn't, and why I recommend we declare. The weather radio winner was Gary Albers. That was at the home show for transparency. Saturday, there was sandbagging operations, and Bruce, South Dakota, I took up a case of water and dropped off with him. And, in 2011, we had a phone call from one of the newspapers yesterday. They asked what kind of damages Brookings County had, and right at $500,000 damage in 2011. That was the claim damage. That wasn't necessarily what was paid back. But and then last but not least, starting next Tuesday, April the 1st, I'll be going to Bismarck for a 2-day pipeline conference. And Richard will be holding the fort down while I'm gone. Any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Pierce?
You said there are 26 township roads that are closed.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a count on the number of culverts that are at issue?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I can do a rough, but yeah.
Any other questions for Bob? Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Misty?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm going to start out with chemical bids this morning. We opened the bids March 8th, and I handed the bids out to 2 different entities, Egg First and then Ramsdale's. Ramsdale's did not submit a bid. So Egg First was our only choice for chemical this year. We'll start out, I believe you have the paper in front of you. 2,4-D was $9.80 a gallon. That is up from, I believe we paid $9.30 last year. Yes, $9.30 last year per gallon for 2,4-D. Now there's difference. Last year I only bidded 2,4-D. That's all I bidded. This year I've bidded 2,4-D, Grassland L. The price of that, do you want me to read the prices all off, or are you guys okay with just reading it?
You've already presented them, so I guess we have them.
Okay. And the reason I went with these other chemicals is to have some options in case we possibly need them for the cheaper rate. I know it's quite a bit different from last year, but I would rather be, we're not going to have all these chemicals at the shop. They'll be at Egg First. They'll be at just...
As needed.
As needed. That's correct. Otherwise, I think Grassland L would be the way to go this year, being as we are strictly spot spraying. It's going to take us, like I mentioned in the past, it's going to take us a little bit to get caught up, a year, maybe next year possibly, with this Grassland L, and I think we should be in good shape. So that is it for the bids. Is there any questions you have? Let me tell you this. For Grassland L, I quoted you, the board, a price of like $10,500. I believe that was before we received the bids and opened them. Our new price per tote for Grassland L would be $9,437.50. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Is there any questions on the bids?
Any questions? Commissioner Pierce?
I guess I'm a little concerned that we only had one bid. Do you have some thoughts on how we can increase those numbers in the future? Should we be reaching out to some other entities?
That's a good question. I'm trying to keep our bids local so we can keep our hometown businesses open. There's a couple other places, one other place besides Ramsdale's and Brookings, but they don't want to do county business with us. That was their choice. I offered it 2 years in a row, and they refuse. You can't force them. Ramsdale's, I don't know what happened there. If they missed the date, I did call them and remind them so that they were on the same page as us. If we were to open up our bids wider, we're looking at 2, 3, possibly 4 days for delivery of chemical. It's a lot nicer when we can just go to Ag First in Aurora, get our chemical and come back rather than waiting. It happened to me a few times last year. Oh, shoot, we're out of this, oh, we're getting close. You know, and Vandy Supply is who we have gone through. 2 years ago, we went through Vandy Supply and we were constantly fighting them to get our chemical because we had to wait for a place for that chemical to be transported on the truck to the shop. So, but yeah, I mean, we could do that next year for the bids.
And I support doing our business locally. On the other hand, if we only have one bidder, we may not be getting the best price, and I don't know if that's something maybe the weed committee should discuss, the weed board, excuse me. And Commissioner Jensen, you're on that, right?
Yes, I do.
Do you have an opinion, or?
Like Misty said, I mean, the prices are comparable to what we've been paying, is up 20 cents. I mean, it's not a huge, it'd be different if it was a huge difference in price from last year. It's unfortunate the chemical companies, just like she said, Ramsdale's didn't submit one, but usually there's not a lot of difference between the price per gallon. So
There's maybe 25 cents difference, higher or lower. Just depends on what kind of chemical. And that's the other thing with these other chemicals that I did bid this year. I don't have a history of that for you guys, so we cannot compare that. But I understand where you're coming from.
mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something we can talk about at the board, at our next board meeting.
You might research online what you can buy you can ask for a quote from them, not holding them to it. So
I'll tell you what, I'll get a hold of a couple different companies, even though they're not local, and I'll see if I can't get a quote from them. And then maybe, I'm not sure the date, I don't want to give you a date. It's leading into my next thing I was going to let you know. But I'll get something together and present it to you.
For next year.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Misty? Seeing none, thank you, Misty. We do
I'm
have
not quite done.
Oh, you're not done. I thought you were done. You asked for questions, so I thought you were. We do have a 9 o'clock. Do you have a lot of time?
I will wait. How's that sound?
Sounds fine. We'll move to a scheduled agenda item at 9 a.m. is a Boulevard Tree Project funding request from Jameson Barrett, the advisor. So we'll have that request first, and then we'll look for a motion. Welcome.
Welcome. I feel so important butting somebody off here, so thank you for your timeliness. As you mentioned, my name is Jameson Barrett. I serve as informal advisor for the Delta Chi fraternity. Each year we come before this board to request some funds for the Brookings Boulevard project. I'm starting to lose track, but I think this is at least the 5th year that they have done the project. So each year we find a student or a group of students who go out and sell trees in local communities, not just in Brookings, but we try to hit some of the surrounding communities as well. The project is paid for in a good part by the Rotary Club. We have a great partnership with them, and they provide us a grant. This Brookings City also has a great partnership with us, where they order the trees for us. They give us a slight discount on them, and then the city employees for Brookings actually do plant the trees in Brookings, which has worked out quite well the last couple of years. And then the final piece of funding, other than yourselves, is from the trees themselves. As the students go out to sell the trees in the area, they charge $15 per tree, which is a great deal, but it also helps those local residents to have a little skin in the game, and that generates quite a bit of funding to go towards it as well. I'm requesting $500 from the county this year, which is the same as last year. And there would be 60 trees. This year, the city of Brookings has ordered 30 Boulevard Linden, 10 Redmond Linden, and 20 autumn blaze maples for a total of 60 trees. Quick little tidbit on the timeline is our student is going to be selling the trees starting here at the beginning of April and have those all lined up for sale by the mid to end of the month so that the Brookings City can start planting their trees in the city at the end of April towards the beginning and mid of May. I have a contact over in the city of Volga who has agreed to plant trees in Volga, so many trees sold in Volga, the city staff there will also be planting. Any questions?
Any questions?
If just some historical data too, this is we've been funding this since 2014. We gave, 2015 we didn't. I think the request kind of came in, I think just timing. It wasn't that we said no, I think it was a timing thing, but we gave $750 in 14, $750 in 16, $1,000 in 17, and then last year we did do 500. So that was the request.
And the request is for 500 this year?
Correct.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded. Now we'll have discussion.
Okay. So
Commissioner
you're
Coleman.
also working with their local communities. You said Volga. Any other communities you're working with in those trees, and how many are you looking to do in Volga?
Sure. Last year it was only Volga. I'd like to see other communities more involved. It's easier in Volga since I find employment there. Other communities we are certainly welcome to work with as well, and so we'll reach out to the Bruces and the Whites of the world.
Any other questions?
I just want to say, I really like this project. This is an exciting thing that you're doing, and I'm in favor of that.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you
Thank you,
much.
Jamison. Good luck. We'll have Misty come back up.
Hello again. DOT contract came in on Monday. I've got it filled out. It will be in the packet for the April 9th meeting. It's just the contract to spray right-of-ways for the 2019 season. So once you commissioners approve that, sign it, usually Jenna will take it and add the minutes for that day and then send it to Watertown to Matt Bray. And then I'll get my contract back, and when my guys come back, then we can start spraying and doing gophers on DOT. So I just wanted to put that bug in your ear. We also have a weed tour coming up, which I'm gonna have to work on, in Brookings. The good, the bad, the ugly weed tour. Last year I attended it. It was up by Summit. This year it's around Brookings area. We're planning on touring the nature park. There's a piece of ground south of Brookings that's never been dug up for the natural forbs, where we want to hit that, see if we can get permission to go on that property and just kind of walk around and identify plants. We'll have flags that state what this plant is. And then we're also going to go up to Fish and Wildlife Ground up by Oakwood. That's the 3 stops that I know of for sure. I'm sure there will be a few more, and it'll be an all-day tour. Dates I do not have yet. We're still working on all that, but I just wanted to put that bug in your ear. Other counties have already put the word out there, so I figured I better get it too. And this is available to anybody. Anybody is welcome to come. I will be out May 8th, until May 8th. I have some medical surgery going on, so I won't be back until May 8th. Thank you to Laura, Stacy, and Michelle for paying my bills while I'm gone and making sure if everything's in order at the office. I have Gary Eggeberg scheduled to come back about April 15th, start getting the trucks and ATVs, everything ready, fixing if there's any to do. And then also, we don't have to hire anybody new. Everybody's coming back that we had last year, so I'll have the same crew, which is wonderful. They all know what to do, I have no doubt. So Mike, Brock and Nick will be coming back first part of May. We don't have a certain day yet. We're seeing how their schedules plan out. And then also I wanted to let you know we have 8 townships signed up so far for spraying. They're a little on edge. They have their choice if they want to use 2,4-D or grassland. They have a choice. I did have some townships ask if I could spray some spots with grassland and some spots with 2,4-D. I'm open to that, but I haven't received any calls back or nobody's wanting to meet yet. So otherwise, that is it. if you have any other questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Misty. All right, we'll move on to Sonia. We don't get to see you every meeting, so
Oh, I
welcome.
know. It's such a treat when I come, isn't
Yeah.
it? I should bring treats and kind of share my wealth a little bit. Good morning. I wanted to come up and let you know how things for this first quarter have been progressing with Brookings County 4-H. Our shooting sports season for the winter is winding down. We have a month left. There are currently 100 kids registered for the state shoot, occupying 120 spots, meaning that some of those kids that make up the 100 are shooting multiple disciplines, more than one style of archery, multiple air gun disciplines, 2 styles of 22, a combination of the 3 different. So that takes place in Fort Pierre, the last full weekend of April, and with every 5 to 8 spots that 4-H kids from Brookings occupy, we have to provide 1 volunteer. So over the course of 3 days, we'll also have, about 30 volunteers filling time frames to help score, hand out ribbons, whatever it is that they need for them to do. We do have 2 instructors in Brookings that are the head range officers for the 3-day competition. Alan Pickard runs the archery line, and Terry Went runs the BB gun line. So we do put in quite a bit of volunteer time from Brookings County. We have a good group of volunteers with our program. Our robotics program is continuing through April and May, and will wind down here the first part of May. We have, this is the time of the year where we've got all these kids that are thinking about their projects for the summer, and they have specific trainings that they need to have completed in order to participate in county and state level events. So we had a horse training last week where we tied into a speaker that Kaisa Gilkerson had brought in, Dale Myler, excuse me. And so we did our training on campus using the Animal Science Arena. Had 25 kids that participated. That's not quite all of our Brookings kids that need to be trained, but a good portion of them. New this year, every 4-H member that exhibits an animal other than dog or companion animal needs to have a Youth for the Quality Care of Animal Training, YQCA. And I've got several trainings scheduled. We have about 150 4-H members that need to have that training done by July 1st in order to compete county and state level. It covers 3 areas: food safety, animal well-being, and life skills. So it takes about an hour to 90 minutes. Last week we had 57 kids that were trained, so we're a third of the way complete. The April 22nd Easter Monday holiday has wreaked a little havoc for my schedule because a couple schools are in session now that weren't originally, but we'll get them all trained. We've got April dates and May dates, and if need be, we'll go into June. And they need to have that completed by the 1st of July, so they have a little bit more time than our horse kids. We have our role with the paint exchange taking place on the 6th of April out at the landfill, where we help carry the paint from the vehicles, open it, sort it from good or bad, then sort it from light and dark, and the landfill guys will do the mixing. So that's coming up. Our enrollment since the last time I was here has gone up. We're at 270 kids, and I was looking at some that need training done that haven't done their enrollment, so we've got a few that still need to be in by May 31st. And to make sure I'm in under the wire for the next scheduled event here, when we moved, we brought with us 12 chairs that currently 8 of them are seated out in are situated in like the Great Hall area of the OAC, and some of them are in our office. The fabric on them has begun to deteriorate. They're probably about 20 years old. They were purchased new when the Resource Center was built. I have inquired about having those chairs recovered. I can do so at a cost of just under $1,700. we've pulled one into our office because little holes are very intriguing for little fingers, and so it went from this to the chair width. And the 8 that are sitting in the Great Hall area or the main hall, we'd like to cover with like a faux leather vinyl on the seat so that they're easy to wipe off, because I have come into muddy shoes from the parking lot that were planted on the chair bottom for whatever crazy reason, and then have a fabric back, and the chairs in the office would be matching with the same fabric as those that are out there, so they can continue to coordinate. But I inquired with central business or office peeps about what I could do for replacing those chairs at the same cost, and haven't heard back. I've got my price from a gal here in town, Deb Griffin, and wasn't something that was budgeted for, but wasn't planning on those chairs to be coming so rough looking. So the budget can afford to do so, but I wanted to bring that forward for any input that you might have.
Is there any questions? Input? Commissioner Pierce?
How many chairs did you say?
There are 12.
12, and it'd be 1,700 to recover?
Right. Yeah, and I inquired with her about, like, the structure of the chair is good and the padding is good, so it's just the cost of the fabric and labor.
I mean, I don't have an objection to moving one way or the other. When you see the bids for new chairs, you can make a decision,
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned, so, without objection.
Yeah, I think it can fit into the budget. I took a look at that, and she's aware of how county processes work as far as tax exempt and an invoice and paid through the billing system.
Any other questions for Sonia? Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you. Have a great Tuesday, and go Jacks.
Yeah, exactly. Go Jacks. Mike, we're going to have you wait. We have a 9:15 scheduled. Mr. Nelson will give his report. State's Attorney's Annual Report.
Well, there's 2 of them. There's a second.
$140 a piece.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. I'll wait till we have it pulled up here before I begin. Yeah, and then I think, there's a second one. Yeah, one just to the right there. Yes. So on the first page here, we'll just begin. So the process that we have in the office is we catalog all the convictions every single week for 52 weeks of the year. And so primarily Lisa Radke, the legal assistant, as well as Lynn Kramer, the other legal assistant, tracks our numbers throughout the course of the year. And we try and compile, obviously, as you see here on the screen, the felony convictions, the Class 1 misdemeanor convictions, and then the Class 2 misdemeanor convictions. We don't account for the arrests. We just account for the convictions that are processed through the state's attorney's office. Typically, the precedent has been with this office that we usually present kind of a look back for the last 5 years. We drop off 1 year every report. And so in this report, we're looking back to 2014. And you can see that last year's number is pretty consistent to what we've seen the last 4 years. We had that high increase in 2016, which was kind of the peak of the meth epidemic. And then it's kind of gone back to closer to what we've seen in the last 4 years. So last year there was 167 felony convictions, which is still a lot. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the opioid epidemic, the meth epidemic, and certainly felony drugs is the primary driver behind most of the criminal activity we see here in Brookings County. And then with the misdemeanors and Class 2s, like I said, it's remained consistent the last 5 years in terms of what that number is. And obviously the bottom part of that, 111 of the 167 felony convictions are drug related. So if we scroll down, we look specifically at some of our more common class 1 misdemeanors, which is DUI. We're looking at almost the exact same number that we had in 2017, almost 219 DUI convictions, 16 of which were felony DUI enhancements. For those of you who don't know, if you have at least 3 DUI convictions within a 10-year period, the state can file what's called a Part 2 information alleging it to be a felony. So if you're convicted of 3 DUIs within a 10-year period, it's a Class 6 felony, 2 years in the penitentiary maximum, and then it can go all the way up to, a DUI 5th, which is a Class 4 felony, 10 years in the penitentiary. So we see the felony DUIs and then the average blood test, which is pretty incredible. I mean, it's incredible to see that the average is over twice the legal limit. And there was 220 of those individuals that were driving around our county over twice the legal limit. And as the sheriff will tell you, that's just the ones we catch. Unfortunately, we don't catch all of them, but it's still a scary fact. And the DUI is something that, we continue to see here, a high number, and we're working hard to crack down on that. So we'll move on to the domestics. We see the aggravated assault, just 2 convictions in 2018, and then the simple assaults, disorderly conducts are fairly close to what we saw in 2017. The Class 2 misdemeanors, for those of you who don't know, we recently started the diversion program for underage consumption. The diversion program is aimed at first-time offenders. So we're talking about the 18, 19, 20-year-old that is cited for underage consumption for the first time. Rather than having them come into court and pleading guilty, we're giving them a volunteer. It's voluntary. They don't have to complete the diversion program, but they have the option of completing community service in a class at East Central. Upon successful completion of that class, we dismiss the underage citation. And so that 336 number that you see up there, that was the number of underage convictions in Brookings County last year. And so hopefully next year, when this report is given, you'll see a significant decrease in that number. And the reason why is obviously that they've chosen to do the diversion program. So I'm hoping to see that number, that 336 number, cut in half, hopefully. I'd like to see a 50% participation rate in our diversion program. Some of you may think that's a low target, but actually I would be happy with 50%, because that would mean that we would have over 1,000 community service hours that have been leveraged through our diversion program. So I'm hoping to bring that number down. And then obviously we see the other Class 2 misdemeanors. And then one jury trial in 2018 that occurred last November. That was State of South Dakota v. Zachary Blum, which was a trial that happened, I think, the first part of November. So we can go to the next page. And just for the commissioners, the page that I handed out before I started just had the correct felony conviction rate up there. The 167 is the correct number. The previous, or at least the number that was in the packet, was incorrect. So we've corrected that. We can start here. Brookings County involuntary mental commitments. The total petitions filed was 86 last year, and then the parentheses 65 was the number last year. So we've seen an increase in our involuntary commitments from last year to 86. And then of those 86 petitions, there was actually 68 that were committed. So how we get to that 68 is there were 50 individuals, and then there were 6 individuals that had been committed at least twice. Some of those individuals had actually been committed 3. One had been committed 4 times, and so that's how we get to that 68 number. And then that was compared to 55 last year. And I know one of the commissioners had asked me before today how that compares to 3 years ago as it relates to involuntary commitments. I can provide that. I'll see whether or not the office was tracking involuntary commitments looking back to 2013. I'm not sure that we have those numbers, but if we do, I can have Amber provide those to the commissioners. So then we can look at, more specifically, if you just want to scroll down, we'll go to, so this is kind of the specific breakdown on how we get to that felony number of 167, and this is a pretty exhaustive list of the types of felonies that are charged here in Brookings County. And you can see, in the middle of the screen there, it's the drugs, 111. Like I talked about earlier, is the primary driver of our felony crime. Because even if you look at that forgery number, which is right above it at 4, and then you also look at, if you scroll down, Stacy. That grand theft by non-sufficient checks. If you really were to look at the nuts and bolts of those cases, a lot of times you're going to have an addict who is writing bad checks to local businesses here, trying to get cash to buy drugs. And so that grand theft, that 9, if you were to look at in some of those 9 felony theft investigations, a lot of times it would be a person who is an addict who is writing bad checks to feed their habit. Same as it relates to forging bad checks. And so, like I said, drugs is still the primary driver for some of these other felony convictions. And then some of the more violent felonies, rape, sexual contact, 2, which is down from some of those other numbers that we see, 8 in 2017, 4 in 2016, 7 in 2015. The robbery, we didn't have any in 2018 and 2017, and after next week, we'll already have 3 robbery convictions just this year. So we'll see that number increase. So that's the felonies. This is always an interesting number to look at in terms of the policy and how judges are treating offenders at sentencing. So a suspended execution of sentence is a fancy way of saying somebody got probation when they were convicted of a felony. The judge is suspending the penitentiary time and then placing that individual on probation. So if they violate their probation, that penitentiary sentence can be imposed. And so that's what a suspended execution is. You're suspending the execution of the penitentiary time, kind of doing the carrot and stick approach. Hey, follow through on probation, because if you mess up, you're going to go to the penitentiary. So we see that type of situation happening in 123 of the 167 felony convictions, which, obviously is a large portion of that. And the reason why is typically when you're convicted of a felony drug offense, you're eligible for what's called presumptive probation. And I know the Attorney General has talked a lot about that. They tried to repeal that this last legislative session. And the reason for that is a lot of the state's attorneys in the state, a lot of the sheriffs, a lot of the law enforcement felt that we weren't sending enough people to the penitentiary, and there was too much of this. There was too many suspended executions happening, too many people in our local jails, too many people on probation, not enough people in the penitentiary, and there was a public safety concern. And so that 123 is actually a good example of why you saw the Attorney General this year trying to overturn that presumptive probation, because we just have that many more felony offenders here locally rather than down at the penitentiary. So that's kind of a good look into the rest of South Dakota, because if you were to look at other counties, they would have that similar number, a very high portion of their felony convictions resulting in probation. A suspended imposition of sentence is when the judge seals the record. And so if you're convicted of a felony or misdemeanor, you complete probation, the judge will seal your record. So employers and other people who do background checks won't be able to see that felony conviction. If you do a criminal history background, so if law enforcement does a background, it'll still show up. But typically civilian background checks will not show a suspended imposition. Sent to the penitentiary at the top there, 38. So again, that goes back to my comments regarding presumptive probation. We see a very high number in 2016 compared to what we've seen the last 2 years. So, you know, that findings of facts, conclusions of law, that FOF, that's when the judge finds that the person violated their probation and then they were sentenced to the penitentiary. So 30 of those 123 had violated their probation and were sent to the penitentiary. So, and then, class 1 misdemeanors, again, a pretty exhaustive list of the types of crimes that we see here in Brookings County. Again, misdemeanor drugs, DUIs is the primary misdemeanor offense that we see. Class 2 misdemeanors, same type of chart, the most common that we see here. And I'll just say, Eric, if you're taking notes, you can tell the public, if you're going to write a story, that anyone can request this chart, these statistics. If you call our office, I'll make this chart available for any citizen who wants to come in and pick this up. This is all public, obviously public information, and I just want to make sure that it's accessible. I mean, possibly we could post a link on the county website, Sean, that would have this on it. Is that possible? Yeah. So we'll post this link on the county website, and anyone can print this off and look at it. This is just a chart involving assaults, particularly. These are numbers that are displayed in the previous charts as well. DUI breakdowns, again, similar to the previous years. Not a real big spike or decline, just kind of staying steady. And then the juvenile statistics. Again, fairly close to what we saw in 2017. You know, some of these carried over into this year. So you see the number of juvenile petitions. Not all of those 155 have been resolved. Some of those are carrying over into this year as well. So we see the CHINS petitions. CHINS stands for Child in Need of Supervision. That's what CHINS stands for. And the CHINS statute allows the state to allege various things as to why the child is in need of supervision. And so truancy, the kid is failing to go to school. The state deems that child in need of supervision, so he makes sure that he goes to school beyond parental control. If the parent is having issues at home regarding discipline, curfew, structure, that parent can come into the state's attorney's office, write out an affidavit explaining why they believe their child's out of their control, and then that's based on my review as to whether or not that child is coming into court, and then we see the runaway. And then obviously the underage drinking, if they're under the age of 18. Transfers of venue, that's when if there is a child and minor who commits a crime here in Brookings County, the state allows us to transfer that case to their home county. So if there's someone from Sioux Falls, child here from Sioux Falls who commits a crime to Brookings, I can transfer that case back to the Minnehaha County State's Attorney's Office, and that's where they'll face that charge, even though the crime occurred here in Brookings. And so that's what that change of venue means. Teen court referrals are programmed through the Boys and Girls Club. They do our teen court, so happy to see that we're utilizing that program and that there were successful completions as it relates to those. Juvenile citations, that was part of the law change that occurred as part of Senate Bill 73, the juvenile justice reform. It used to be that if you were cited for those 4 offenses, so petty theft, intentional damage, underage possession, or truancy, it used to be that those were delinquent. You would be considered a delinquent child, but now those are just citations, and so the court typically just imposes a $100 fine. And there's a lot of controversy about that, because if you have a kid who's not going to school, is it appropriate to just fine that child $100 because he's not going to school, especially when the parents more than likely are the one paying that fine? So that still has some controversy on it. I don't necessarily agree with it, just because we have children paying $100 fines for committing theft and not going to school, and I think there's a better way to deal with that. But that was part of the juvenile justice reform that we saw. So those are the numbers behind that. Abuse and neglect. We still, some of those were carryover cases, and those numbers are explained in that chart. If we go on the next page, yep, same transfer of venue, specifically what crimes were transferred to different counties as it relates to juveniles. Same with teen court, just a more definitive breakdown of what types of crimes were referred to teen court, excuse me. And then a more detailed breakdown as to what delinquent acts were charged out as it relates to juveniles. You see that high number, 76, for criminal entry of a motor vehicle. We have a juvenile who is in JDC right now down in Sioux Falls, and it's alleged that through the course of several days he had committed that number of break-ins in vehicles here within the city of Brookings, as well as the 10 burglaries that you have there. Those allegations are still pending, but it's alleged that there was one juvenile behind all of that, and that case will hopefully be resolved here in the next couple weeks. So that's what that is. Yeah, just more of the types of crimes that are charged out here as it relates to juveniles. That, if you go back up, so the court has a couple different, if you scroll down just a little bit, they have a couple different options when a child admits to a petition. And obviously, as the chart shows, that 4 months of probation is the typical sentence disposition in a juvenile case, is the 4 months of probation. That probation can be extended if they violate during that 4 months, but it's very rare that you're going to see anything beyond that 6 months. So it's 4 to 6 months. That's typically how juveniles, when they're adjudicated and how their case is disposed of, is that's typically the disposition, is that 4 months. for those of you who want to know what typically happens to a juvenile when they're adjudicated, that chart shows that. And that was compared to 27 last year for the 4-month range. Yeah, that's just the number of probation violations that we had as it relates to juveniles, just 9. And then we covered this previously. So, like I said, we'll put this on our website, the county website. We'll make that available to the public. Is there any questions that any of the commissioners have as it relates to
Any questions?
the chart?
Commissioner Pierce.
What a surprise, huh? Stacy, do you know, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, and maybe Vicki would know, the teen court program, what, did we budget money for that last year?
Yes.
And do you know what that dollar amount was?
I believe it's 25,000.
And then we get about 5,000 of that back through the state program, is that right?
Yeah, approximately. Yeah, about that, I think. I don't know if Vicki knows offhand.
Yeah, I think it was a little more
I thi-
last year. I don't have the
I was thinking it was
exact
a little
amount.
bit more too
I was
last year.
thinking 7,000 to 8,000 last year.
So the numbers on the teen court referrals say successful numbers only, and there were 12.
Right.
Okay, do you have any idea how many started and didn't successfully complete? I'm just wondering what we're spending $25,000 on if we've got 12 kids going through the program. And what is that money being used for then?
Well, there was 12 completed, but then referred, there was 50. There was 50 kids referred, and then there was 12 that successfully completed it. If you go back to the previous page.
So
and that number actually is not. It was actually 24.
I just wonder at budget time if that's a question maybe we should be asking, because the numbers I don't think are what we anticipated they were going to be when we funded it at the level we funded at. I support team court. I don't want you to think that I don't do that, but if we're spending $25,000 to get 12 kids through the program, I just have to look at what we're
And
doing.
do you know
here.
when that decision was made to allocate that number?
It was when that program originally began. When was the Juvenile Justice Act passed?
Well, it was 2015.
I think that might have been that same year.
It was spring of 2015.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might have been that same year or the next year.
Okay.
Okay, so that's just pointing that out. Maybe we should take a look at that as we're moving forward. And then the other thing that I'd like to point out is when we look at that, 12.8% of all court-appointed attorneys' fees paid back for 20 years, more than 20 years. Brookings County routinely collected between 40 and 50% of court-appointed attorneys' fees. And again, that's one of the things that when the lien subcommittee starts looking at lien issues, we need to have a lot more conversation about what we're doing with that. And then my last thing was a question. That 1,000 hours of, roughly, I know you're guessing, of community service, who is picking out the entities that the community service is performed at?
Yeah, so I've personally reached out to several nonprofits here in Brookings, and there are approximately 10 that have committed to partnering with the state's attorney's office to make those community service hours available for the participants. So I'm not going to name those nonprofits by name, but there are several that have agreed to partner with the office to provide those hours.
So your office identifies places where they can go and apply to do their hours.
There's a verification process, and so the paperwork that my office provided to those nonprofits to make sure that the individuals are actually doing the hours and that it's verified and it's being supervised by a person who signs off on those hours, that was something that I had to coordinate, because I can't just have the participants going out and saying, well, I volunteered at such and such at such and such a time. So there's a verification process. So we had a partner together to figure that out. And so as a result of those conversations, we've come up with a system where it will be verified, and then the participant brings that verification back to the state's attorney's office, and then only upon receipt of that is the charge dismissed.
Do you have enough areas to place people in?
Oh yeah, there's numerous volunteer hours here in Brookings.
And the reason I was asking is
Yeah.
I was wondering if our non-mandated, the entities to whom we give non-mandated money because they're all nonprofit, if they were participating.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you. Dan? That's probably your report at the end of the meeting too, isn't it? Or do you
Yes.
have another one?
No.
We'll take that as the full report. Mike?
Good morning.
Good
I
morning.
don't have a lot to report. The welfare numbers seem to be a little bit down, which is a good thing. The low-income energy assistance program is coming to an end for this year. It ends at the end of this month, another week. There's two things that I do like to mention. I still go up on campus. I met with a couple of veterans up there last week. And the other thing is I've been approached by one of the businesses in town to come out and give a presentation to their veterans group at that particular business, and so I will be looking forward to that. Some of the questions they're dealing with is what education benefits that are still available. That's it.
That's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
You didn't get any questions, or you have one?
Nope.
Nope. Thank you very much, Mike. We saved our best for last year, Vicki. We have some be it noted items and investment policy money and transfers, auditor's account with the treasurer, payroll additives and totals, highway expenditures report, register of deeds statement of fees collected, and then we have some documents for the finance officer report and investment policies money transfers that we'll probably see, along with item I, which is the annual report. You get to do them all. Thank you, Vicki, for coming up.
You're welcome. Yeah, you should have received in your packet the finance officer's report, and Mike's already said the be it noted items. For the surplus, general fund surplus analysis, we're at 12.04%, which is down just slightly compared to other years, but not enough to be alarmed at. Next month will probably be low again, but then we'll start getting taxes in. So I think we're fine with where we're at. So we're good there. And I did do a credit card usage report from 2015 to 2018. And just to kind of give you an idea, last year we had credit cards of $1,500,000 that went through, and that is both motor vehicle and taxes, and it gives you the breakdown. The e-check is all taxes because we can't do e-check for motor V. And what we're collecting for taxes, if everyone was to pay, we bill out $50,129,000 and over $8 million for motor vehicles. So we're still at a low percentage, but it keeps going up every year. So I think that people are using it more. And also it says there that they are charged a convenience fee, and it's about 2.5%. So that goes back to the credit card companies, or the third party that we go through. We don't see any of the convenience fee charges for Brookings County. So that gives you an idea of what they're paying for the convenience of doing credit cards. And the e-check is $1.50 per check. So it's increased every year. It's went up, and I think it'll continue to go up. And does anybody have any questions on the finance officer's report or the credit cards?
Commissioner Pierce.
I'm sorry, and I'm looking for the right page in my documents, and I'm not finding it. The chart, and I don't know if it's in the part that you're going to talk about now or the part that we just covered, so I'm going to ask the question, where you've got how much we have in different accounts, and you kind of did a different layout on that based on all the things that we talked about before. That $500,000 that's listed as being in the general fund for administrative building, I don't remember what that was for. Is that our parking lot money? What is that $500,000 there?
For,
and I just can't get to the right page on here, sorry.
I believe that's for the parking lot.
There.
This
Yes.
500.
that one, yes.
So that 500,000, and why is that in the general fund and not in the building fund, in the 301?
Because that's where it was designated.
Yeah, that's where the board designated it.
Okay, I just couldn't remember how we came up with that. And when we had joint powers, are we expecting $500,000 for the parking lot? That number seems a lot bigger than what we.
I don't know if we know exactly what that number is yet. I think this is high, yes.
Okay. The number that sticks in my head is 150,000, and that's why I couldn't remember what the rest of that money was for that we had in the administrative building fund.
And we do have 150,000 for the BCOAC parking lot, you know. So
Okay.
if that, I know we have that.
And the other question that I had when I was looking at these, Vicki, that assigned fund balance subsequent year's budget, is that a new line? I didn't remember that from previous years, and I see that it's kind of sprinkled throughout the reports.
No, it isn't new.
And they're all zeros.
Yeah.
Do we use that for anything?
I don't know that we have in the past used that. We maybe have a few years ago, but we haven't had anything in there for a couple of years. I suppose we could take that line out, but it's been in there for a number of years.
And the reason I was asking is Commissioner Krogman has on occasion indicated, some concern about the fact that maybe we have money in our general fund that we're intending on using the next year for some project, and then we go ahead and levy for that money again. Is that what that line is for? That's what I wanted to know.
It could be used for that because you'll see like in the 201 fund, we included the big river bridges and the Sinai Bridge and that. We've got that all designated, divided out between the different projects. So we could use that in the general fund if that's what you want to do.
I just didn't know what we used that line for.
Yeah, we haven't been
Okay.
using it, so.
I really like this form. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Commissioner Jensen?
Vicki, where did we have the money for the highway shop
That's
remodel?
it's under building fund, and
That's actually in the budget. This is just fund balance. This
Right.
is just
Okay.
showing fund balances. So the amount budgeted for the highway shop is actually in the highway budget, or it's actually in the 301 budget for this year.
and
I think I have that as part of my report, although it's maybe a little outdated.
we've got, there's a place that shows.
No, I don't. I don't have no, I don't. This is just the trial
I'll look
balance.
through here. I've got the amount and everything. I think it's 500 and some thousand, but that is set aside.
Okay.
But I can look for that. It isn't on this sheet because that, like Stacy says, it's just fund balance. So we do have that budgeted. And also, I've included the investment policy monies and transfers. And just to kind of go over how we come up with these amounts, we send out to all the banks in the county a form that they complete if they want to be involved with the investment policy on how many loan dollars there are in Brookings County, how many loans they have out in the loan dollars. From there, it is put on this sheet, and Wells Fargo is not participating, so they didn't complete it. But it shows there's $850 million in loan dollars out. And from there, we divide the percentages, and that is how the money markets are divided. And it gives you a chart there that shows you, how the money markets are divided according to the loan dollars. And then also part of our investment policy is when we have CDs that come due, we keep most of our money in the money markets, but we have $3,004,000 in CDs. And those come due different parts of the year, and with that, we get 3 quotes. And whoever has the highest quote is where that money goes to. So, and there's also a list of where the CDs are and what they're usually about a year term. The highest we can go up is 18 months, but it tells you what the percentage rate is. And they are going up. This year, we've had the top 4 are the ones that we had when I did this, and they were at 2%. And now we've had a couple of them at 2.25% and one at 2.23. So the interest rates are going up, so we should have some more interest income on that. And also for the money markets, part of the policy is they have to pay the T-bill rate, which is 2.45% for this quarter. That is of January 1st. And so that's part of what they have to pay for the money market. And that is something that one of the banks sends out so everybody is aware of what the T-bill rate is, and that's what they pay. And then also on there is just our checking accounts. We have one main checking account that all of our checks are done through, and then we have a refund checking that we use if anybody overpays taxes or motor vehicles. So those are the 2 checking accounts that you have there. So then we divided the money we took out of some banks that had too much for the money markets and put it into where they needed to go. So we did those transfers the first part of March. So it should give you the totals of where all of our money is located. So does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, and then we're going to do the annual report, and we'll have Jennifer Beller come up and present that. She did the annual report for our office, and she did a great job. A couple of the other ones in the office get different reports to her, but she puts everything together and makes sure everything balances, and it's quite a long process to get that put together, and she did a great job, and I just want to thank her for doing that.
Okay, so what you've got in your packet is what was sent to the Department of Revenue and Legislative Audit. A 1-page summary version of that will be published in the papers this Thursday. So I guess just if you have any questions on anything.
Anybody have any questions? Everybody's looking at it carefully here. Any page you want on the screen?
Is
Commissioner
that
Pierce?
due in 1 year? Is that the bond on the courthouse with First Bank and Trust, that 1.2 million? Okay.
Other things you need to report?
Quick question on.
Sure. Commissioner Krogman.
Pension issues there. How do you come out with a number for, I mean, because that's investment dollars, and if the pensions go down or incur, how does that affect this number?
Well, it does fluctuate. And what we, like before when we talked about having those compensated absences on the, to be taken out of our budget. We are tracking them on this because we have to track them. And what we are told is to do just kind of what we've been doing when we have somebody that is going to retire, to put that into the budget under their department and track, or, keep it that way. But as far as the compensated absences, this is just where we have to track them. We do not have to take them out of the budget anymore.
Any other questions? You need more time to look at it, or you have no more questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, just stop down. And they will be on our website as well, all of the financials. So
Thank you.
you want to look at it and stop down and we'll walk you through it.
Do you have anything else, Vicki, or is that it?
Nope, that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to regular business, we've been at this about an hour and a half. I'm going to declare a 5-minute recess, and we'll be back. Thank you. Business. Item A is an action to approve resolution number 19-11, a plat of Lot 1, Olson Addition in the southeast quarter of Section 6, Township 112 North, Range 47 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments? Any questions?
The vote on this one was all approved.
Yes, sir. It was heard at the March Planning and Zoning meeting, 8-0 vote to recommend approval and send it to this board for approval.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce, Boersma. Aye. Krogman.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B, an action to approve resolution number 19-12, a resolution appointing a limited deputy state's attorney. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Any reports? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Pierce. Boersma. Aye. Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Abstain?
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item C is an action to approve resolution number 19-13, a bridge reinspection program resolution for use with South Dakota Department of Transportation retainer contracts. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second? Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion or comments?
I would like to note my preference for in the future actually awarding this via proposal and bid.
Via what type of
A
proposal?
proposal and bid.
Proposal and bid. Okay.
I think competition in our engineering services is healthy for Brookings County and taxpayers.
All right, and since we don't have Brian here today, but we're talking about next year or any other types of one, okay, duly noted. Any other comments?
I'd like to make one.
Larry?
I do know that as you down the list, there are those firms that they have listed. They do all submit their hourly rate to the state, and those are on the state website.
The
rates, I mean, per hour.
Right. The biggest thing is we tend to award all of our contracts in the exact same direction for projects under $50,000. And what I have mentioned to other commissioners and to Brian over the last couple months is that in a lot of cases, you're seeing municipalities or counties who will award a 2-year small project bid based on a proposal. And so then you can group together all of your small projects into one essentially larger project for whoever has that contract. So it can still be competitively proposed.
This particular, I questioned Brian about it the other day. It is for just, I believe it's 5 structures.
Yep.
It's not our annual bridge inspection where they do all of them at there's like 140, so.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Boersma.
Nay.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Pierce. Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D is an action to remove resolution number 18-51, a resolution modifying the Brookings County highway system due to the review of the primary county highway system from the table. This was tabled on 12/18 of 18 and again on January 22nd of 19. So I need a motion to remove it from the table.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. And we'll have all those in favor of removing it from the table say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We've removed it from the table. All right, any other discussion? There's item I is here is a table, discussion and action to table to a future date again because we're apparently not ready with that map.
And none of the reasons why we're moving stuff from our list are in there yet, so.
This is the original resolution
Right.
that has not been updated. And I know the highway department, Brian had said they really are working on just a couple, they have been updating it. They're just working on waiting, I think, working with the city of Brookings on a couple of different streets where they have to take some action first. So we will be presenting, I reached out to Brian this morning, he said for the May 7th, if we table this till May 7th, we'll have an updated resolution That includes all of the reasons for every single one of these. That's what's taking so long, is it's just taking time to get through each one of these items. So he believes by May 7th we'll have that done.
I'd move to table this to the May 7th meeting.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries to table till May 7th. Just as a part of information, I know the city has these streets on their agenda coming up, so hopefully we'll have that taken care of. All right, item E, action to remove agreement number 19-13, an easement agreement for use of county road right-of-way made by Old Tree Farms or Frito Verpalen from the table. Is there a motion to remove that from the table?
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's removed from the table. And we had a motion by Krogman and Borsman on 3/12/19 to approve. So we have that motion already. Are there any comments?
You know, I reread that easement last night, and I would appreciate the state's attorney's opinion on this, and then I had a procedural question. There is a requirement in the easement that they provide a $1 million liability insurance policy. And it doesn't say when that has to be submitted or where it gets submitted. And I'd like to know, do we have those on file somewhere? Are we getting those annually? And I just think this easement should have a date that by the first of the year or by July 1st or whatever it's going to be, that has to be submitted to the finance office, something like that. I see.
I would ask for an opportunity to review it rather than giving you on-the-spot advice here. You and I can talk after the meeting.
I think there's going to be a vote on it in a minute.
Well, I would ask that you hold off on that vote until we have an opportunity to, if you have an issue with it, let's address it, and then we can table it for 2 weeks.
Do we have some of these types of easements already out in the county? They have that language in there.
We do,
What's our
and this
process?
is, and I know Brian is in the process of reviewing this entire document, top to bottom. There were a couple of easements there's still one that's still pending out there too, but that had kind of come in to his office prior to him having a chance to review this document. Yes, there are probably going to be some changes to this. I know as of now, this has been pulled off our website. The process was people would go on the website, fill this out, and submit it. And often there were times that it was not even getting to the highway shop. It would get submitted directly to either like the finance office would receive them or they would come to my office. I know since in the last 2 weeks, I know Brian has gone out and looked at this particular site, and he doesn't have any concerns with the site any longer. So, but if we're going to change that agreement and then require this applicant to do that, we'll have to go back kind of to the beginning and have them start. If you want to get the new agreement with changes done prior to this one that's already was kind of in the hopper before we started looking at wanting to make changes.
So there are a number of these out in the county. And that insurance requirement, has anybody been submitting a copy of their proof of insurance, Mr. Hill?
Mr. Chairman, every confined animal feeding operation has got in my office their insurance on file. They update it once a year, and anybody's welcome to stop down and take a look in the file. But every one of our confined animal feeding operations that's permitted by Brookings County is required to have a minimum of $1 million insurance policy, and it is updated once a year.
And do you have a deadline in your office by which time everybody's supposed to have their proof of insurance submitted?
It's a rolling thing. It depends on when the thing is permitted. But yes, my staff tracks it, and if we don't have it by a certain time, within a certain time, then they contact the operation.
So maybe in the easement, we could say that it could be submitted to the Brookings County Development Office on or before whatever date we want to use each year.
I think what Bob's saying, I believe there is have their annual permit and they update it, and that's, we see those every time they're updated, correct?
That's correct. It's not just dairies, it's all.
And it can
refined
vary
animal feed.
any month of the year, is what you're saying.
I guess
Mr. Krogman?
my thought would be that we would approve this one because he started it with the form that we have. We've got the approval because we tabled it for Brian to go out and see if he had any concerns, and he doesn't. So, I would hate to. They've done everything they're supposed to do. If Mr. Hill has on file the $1 million policy, which is requirement, that to me should cover this. So I think we need to move forward with this one, and if we decide that we want to redo this, which it sounds like we're looking at doing, then we can. But I don't think it's right to do that to these guys mid request. So.
And they have a conditional use permit for,
Yes, ma'am. This one was permitted initially, I believe, in 1995.
and what class is that?
It's the Class A.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would we be able to address the date issue within the motion?
Well, I think I'm okay with what Commissioner Krogman's saying, because if it's a Class A, he has a Class A permit, he'll be submitted. But before it goes back on our website, maybe after Brian's had a chance to review that form, make any changes he wants, then maybe the state's attorney's office ought to have a chance to look at that form. And that would be one of the things that I think we need to fix.
And as Brian and I have discussed this, although he's been kind of busy with other things going on out in the county right now, we haven't had a lengthy conversation, but yes, that was going to be part of the process. Come up with things that he wanted to see changed about it, and then send it on to the state's attorney's office for review, and to make any changes that they see necessary before this ever gets put back on the website again.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution passes, and I think we've got a system here where we'll review this permit application. Item E is an action to remove agreement number 19-13, an easement agreement for use of county road right-of-way made by Old Tree Farms. Read over Palin from the table. Is that the one we just did? I didn't put my P by there. Item F, an action to approve agreement number 19-23, an agreement to provide for the striping and continuing maintenance of county roads within Brookings County. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any comments? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action G here is an action to approve abatement number 19-11, an abatement request made by SDSU Foundation for parcel number 06000-1150-153-02, the amount of $701.89. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions?
We had a question in our packet, and on our screen here, the last two numbers are different. It's got 05 and an 02. Does that matter?
Wonder if that wasn't a typo. Should
Should
be
be
05. Yeah. We need to make that correction to the motion.
Okay. I'll read it again here. An action to approve abatement number 19-11, an abatement request made by SDSU Foundation for parcel number 06000-11050-153-05, and the amount of $701.89. Is there a motion to approve it as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action H, an action to approve abatement number 19-012 or -12, an abatement request made by Lorraine Cracky for parcel number 40185-00000-017-04 in the amount of $419.78. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Any questions?
Vicki, do you have?
These were the late elderly tax freezes, and these abatements are ones that you've already approved at a prior meeting, but we have to go through the abatement process. And if they're in the city of Brookings or any city within the county, they have been approved by the commission in their own cities.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item I, action to approve abatement number 19-13, an abatement request made by Ione Swedlin for parcel number 36025-01200-013-00 in the amount of $690.54. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item J, action to approve abatement number 19-14, an abatement request made by Hugh Randall for parcel number 14108-11151-073-54 in the amount of $184.96. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item K is an action to approve abatement number 19-15, an abatement request made by Eric J. Jones for parcel number 34125-00200-001-00 in the amount of $221.31. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions?
What happened on this one?
Jacob?
The amount of abatement being requested here is due to a building that was lost to a fire. It was a complete loss on July 19th of 2018, so it's taxable from January through July, and requesting abatement for the remaining months of the year.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item L, action to approve abatement number 19-16. An abatement request made by Robert Fay for parcel number 01980-11149-263-00 in the amount of $637.64. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item M, action to approve the annual chemical bid for the Weed and Pest Department to low bid on all items listed from Ag First Farmers Co-op of Brookings. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item N, an action to automatically supplement for unanticipated expenses incurred and reimbursement made to Brookings County Insurance reimbursement for a damaged patrol vehicle, receipt number 452922 to General Ledger Line 101-4-211-4250, the amount of $345.76. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Marty, any comments? Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item O is an action to approve a request to fill vacancy for the marketing intern at Brookings County Outdoor Adventure Center. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item P is an action to approve a request to fill a vacancy for a programming intern at the Brookings County Outdoor Adventure Center. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item Q is an action to approve a request to fill vacancy for a membership assistant intern at the Brookings County Outdoor Adventure Center. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll move on to Commission Department Director's Report. We do have Commission Department Report PDF surplus class analysis and the base trial balance report. Stacy?
Vicki had already discussed the February surplus analysis. I had included the spreadsheets that show the comparisons in my with my report. As she had mentioned, we are a little bit on the low side, lower than average, but in March we'll probably kind of reflect that trend as well. But then April, when we start getting taxes in, we can look at that going back up again. We discussed the some fund balance information, and Vicki can help me out here too. When I printed off this report, then some things changed. This is the trial balance for the building fund, and Commissioner Krogman had mentioned maybe looking at setting some money aside, knowing that in the future we'll need funds to purchase the Beta bus garage that's located on county property out at the highway shop. Fund balance, this 755, 589, 13. It's actually up a little bit more by about $52,000 due to some corrections that had to be made in the finance office. So it's about 807.5 is about what we have in there for fund balance. I know the fund balance sheet that was included in Vicki's report showed $1 million. I think that includes both the non-spendable and this restricted fund balance, and that non-spendable amount is actually down. That the 352, the 52 of it now went to the fund balance, the non-spendable fund balance. So there's 300,000 in there. That is the dollars remaining that the city owes us for the purchase of the resource center. So upcoming years, as they pay that, you'll see that 300,000 go down. So I guess just kind of looking, if the board is wanting to do that, if you want to wait until the end of the year to see where we're at, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I did ask to do this. Right now, Beta is in conversation with other entities, the city and the school district, on potentially the construction of a new garage. There's grant funds that are available, but they need to find matching funds. And sometimes we have trouble finding where to start. We got to have a project, but then you got to have funds, and then you got to submit the grant. But if you don't have a place for it, they don't want to see it. And if we don't have the matching funds, they don't want to see it. So it's like we don't know which way to start to get this project going. So my thought was, if we are planning and on the planning process, that we are willing to purchase that building that is on our leased land, that if we identified some funds in there, that would go towards showing these entities in the grant there that there's a willing buyer for their building. Obviously, we're not setting a price. That would have to be done per regulations and rules of the funds that we use to build that building. But I think it would go a long ways for a grant process to say, look, we're getting this amount from the county, and they're going to say, well, you never know if you're going to get it. Well, look, we have it assigned in our building fund that we would purchase this building. So, again, we're not spending the money. We're not saying yes. It's just assigned. And so I just think it would be a good way to get started, that there are some funds available. So, I was thinking between $300,000 and $400,000. That's just kind of a ballpark for where they had originally seen the value of the building through an appraisal. And I think that would have to be the process that we would have to go through to find out a value, would probably be that process. And so, I'm up with suggestions forever or there too. And I'm not sure what they can use towards grants from that amount of money, because they use the grant to build a building. So I'm not sure how those funds, when they get those, if those are available to use or not, but they're working on that. And that'll be kind of Beta's responsibility. But, I'm fine with any of that type of stuff. So.
I'm sorry, were you going to?
Mr. Pierce?
I was at that same meeting that Commissioner Krogman was at. And I don't think I don't know if you were suggesting putting that amount of money in this fund. I'm opposed to putting that much money in. And I don't have a problem with up to maybe 200,000. And this is what my thoughts are. Stacy sent out, and did everybody get a copy of that, the original lease agreement and everything that we had with Beta? And to go through and value that building, you have to go through the state's surplus property process, I think is what that second form was, and I didn't get through all of that. But we all support Beta, and that's a good thing. If we pay the least amount we can for the building, they cannot use the building recovery monies for matching funds, okay? That doesn't mean that we would short Beta. Whatever other money we gave them, we could choose to assist Beta. We have that capability of doing that. What we gave them that was not reimbursement of the building, they can use for matching funds. So I just think, did that make sense, what I just said? So I don't know that $300 to $400 in our building fund for reimbursement, buying that back is the right way to help Beta. I don't mind putting up to $200,000, for example, in a fund like that to show we intend on doing it in good faith and all those things that Commissioner Krogman said. But I don't want to be making it look like that we would agree $400,000 would be the right purchase price for that. Maybe that building on the surplus, the state surplus system, which I don't understand at this point, would value that building at less than that because Beta doesn't own the land that's underneath it. And so fair market, an appraisal has to take that into consideration. And once that's done, that might be less. And then if we chose to give Beta additional monies, they can use that for match.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jensen.
Little background. In 2009, 2010, when I was highway superintendent out there, the state approached the commission at the same time. And they had an asking price, and I believe they went through a process to determine the asking price, and that was $350,000 at that time. But that's, I mean, that was 10 years ago, but that they actually had a site chosen at that time, and it was the same type of deal. But I believe they were going to use that dollar amount for matching funds in the grant.
We were told by the state at our meeting that we could not do that.
Okay, but that at that time, that's what my understanding was at that time. So.
It's a question on the value of the building, as you mentioned, Commissioner Krogman, would be determined by an appraisal of some sort. Would that appraisal be from the state or be from our appraisal?
No, I think there's a process like that.
State has a process.
Yeah, it's not something that they're just, Beta's going to come to us and say, we want $500,000 for the building, just out of whim. They have a process. That building was built by grant funds also.
Right.
So I don't think that when they sell it that they can just take and do whatever they want with it. There's a certain strings attached to that when they dispose of that property of what they have to do with those funds. I don't know. My question is, I don't know if all of it can't be used or a portion of it can't be used. I don't know, because there's got to be some appreciation in the value of the potentially of the building. So can they use the appreciated value as matching funds, and the cost would be the difference? I don't know. I'm not sure how that process is going to work, and that's what they were checking into. I think I'll let Beta work on that portion if they're. But I guess, like I said, we've got a Beta meeting on Friday. If we can go to them and say, look, we've assigned some dollars in here for the purchase. If that will help you in the grant application, that'd be great. And I'm not sure how much we can use. They can find out how much they can use of that. So.
And I just have another question. When we assign monies from one fund in the 301 fund, from one line to another line, we always can move them all around, right, inside that fund.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we're not taking general fund and moving it to the building fund.
Right.
We're taking funds within the building fund and just assigning them, similar to what we did in the road and bridge where we assigned it for the different bridges.
Does that take formal action?
Yes, it would, and I don't have that on the agenda for formal action today, but we could, and if you need to know something, you could maybe have general consensus today, and then we'd put it on formal action for an upcoming meeting.
I think without objection, we can do that. I just would like to narrow it down a little bit on those questions about what's the dollar amount that can be used as funds for them to continue. If it's 200,000 and that's what the value is, building depreciated value, there's not a lot of purchasers except for the county at this particular point. Are there, I didn't know the DOT when they sell property, which is not their property, it's just their grant dollars. You know, they have an appraisal and that's what they want. And if they sell it for less than that, they can do another government entity, but otherwise it has to go public auction and the appraisal sticks as a minimum bid. So in this particular one, those things probably don't apply. But if we could narrow that cost down somewhat in the resolution, I think it'd be good. So we know what the dollar amount would be. Krogman?
And I don't have a problem with the 200,000, you know, until we know more information. That's fine with me. I just kind of want it there more for the priority to show that, look, we are
Support.
on board and we've got a consensus that we're going to look at and we're planning for the future purchase of it. So.
Okay. Without objection, we'll have those documents put together. Okay, back to you, Stacy.
And then last week, Commissioners Pierce and Boersma and I sat down and started reviewing the RFPs for construction manager at risk. And kind of where we started at was coming up with a score sheet. Oh, wow. I really need to zoom in. And this was handed out this morning on your desks, but I want to. Because this information kind of will help us with the rest of the document, basically. Can you read that? So we're kind of looking for consensus on this scoring method, and then Commissioner Boersma can probably explain it better than I can, but in the initial draft from BKV, it was a kind of a phased approach to getting the requests for proposals. The selection process was a phased approach. So you would get, there was a couple of the yes/no questions, base qualifications. You can see that was at the top. If an application came in or a proposal came in and didn't meet, if either of those had a no, they would immediately be disqualified and not considered. The rest of the application then would be based on, except for the cost, would be based on these proposal scoring, step 2. And we would come up with however many, 3 to 5, I think is probably a good number, that we like based on that application. This is prior to looking at price. We narrow it down to our top 3 to 5 candidates. At that time, goes down to the bottom, you do interviewing, and there's some scoring that will go along with that interview process. And then at that time, we would open up a second envelope that all of these companies have provided to us with the price quote included. So we really aren't looking at their price until kind of that'll be the last kind of criteria that we look at in selecting our construction manager at risk. Does that make sense? Did I explain that clearly? I think Commissioner Boersma's she knows this process a lot better than I do, but basically today we want to get kind of a consensus from the board that this process and this information is okay. That will help us go back into the actual RFP document itself and make some changes and then bring that to the board for final approval.
Questions from the commissioners? The only question I have up front was step 4, the envelope number 2, price proposals. So the price proposals would come from all the applicants initially?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, if I may,
Sure.
the way that it's worded in the RFP that we currently have, or the draft RFP that we currently have, is a modified qualifications-based selection. And the state of Minnesota uses what's called a best value selection process, and they submit a proposal with a price inside of a second envelope in their initial proposal packet. And so in the best value selection process, you go through the whole qualifications-based selection process on the front end and score your top 3 or 5 for your shortlist. And then once you have an idea of who those shortlisted firms are and how you would probably rank them, you open up their price proposal as a secondary decider to help kind of reconcile the idea of if the spread between your first and second place qualifications-based selections is drastic in terms of price, you might decide to go with your number 2 because the margin on qualifications is very small, but the margin on price is very large. Or that may change the way you decide to go into your negotiations on price.
Once we do that opening of proposals, though, are we required by state law to take the lowest bid? I mean, at that point, is that a firm price, or is it still a negotiable price when we open that envelope?
So this is a professional services contract, and so it is not based on price alone. It's based on qualifications of whatever qualified service provider we're choosing. And so you can negotiate with those folks. What they set forth is a process by which they handle pricing. So in a lot of cases, it'll be your pre-construction services might be a fixed fee, and then your GMP evaluation and your percentage basis, because it'll be a service usually based on a percentage.
It's usually a percentage.
And then management fees on top of that, right? And then any price for self-performed work or whatever, they have to disclose that in the way that they disclose their pricing.
Just want to make sure that we're in this proposal, which is a little different than all the bids that come in and the subcontracts. If we're required to do a little bit on this particular proposal or not, I'm not sure.
And I guess that brings up, is there anything on this? Is this the time where, and do we give any scoring for the use of local contractors or local bids? I know when the hospital expansion went on there, they used a tremendous amount of local companies and that kind of stuff, but they used the Kraus Anderson, I think, was out of Minneapolis, but they worked with a lot of local contractors. And if we have those companies available in town, we certainly would like to use them if we could. So does that come into this effect at all, or do we have anything scoring for that, or is that at a later date after we pick somebody?
Well, so this is only for the construction manager as a consultant. So it doesn't take into consideration any of the bid packages that they put forward. It is all based on kind of pre-construction and their general approach to the overall project. Now, when we have them put together bid packages, we can specifically articulate that preference will be given to local contractors within a 50-mile radius or
So that
whatever.
doesn't belong in this scoring system?
Not necessarily, no.
All right.
And I will say that this score sheet was based pretty heavily on examples from the Office of the State Engineer. So OSE in here does all of the procurement practices for all state-funded projects. So our ADRDL at SDSU, all of those types of things, that scoring process is what was reviewed in conjunction with the one that was proposed by Bruce.
And again, I like the scoring process. We used a similar scoring sheet. Wasn't quite this defined on this building, but it does help us narrow those proposals down. And then the actual shortlisted interview scoring was probably more important than this preliminary part. You can get down to 3 or 4 or 5, whatever we decide. As we look at this, or maybe let's say there's 10 applicants, and we decide 5 look okay, or we only like 3. We can make that decision at that point. Now, this envelope price proposal is after the shortlisted interview scoring. So if we do on-site interviews with these people, let's say it's 3, we still don't open the pricing? Or we have that open before we do?
No, typically you would open that last.
Okay. So that was my question. So if they come and do a proposals to us, show us their projects, do their presentation, that's in step 3 yet. But that's only the short listed of whether we do 3 or 5 or whatever the case may be.
If folks generally like this structure, then we can make sure that the RFP models kind of after how this structure works. But I want to make sure that people fundamentally understand this structure first.
And that step 1 is an absolute rejection of somebody's application if they don't submit the proof that they can bond, or there would be a pre-meeting where they would have to come see our site before they submit their proposal. And if they're not willing to send somebody here to look at it and see what our building constraints are and that sort of thing, then we will not consider their proposal.
Now, I know when we got to the shortlisted interviews on this particular building, we did those interviews, and at those interviews, they gave us their proposals publicly of what their percentages were for all their different fees. So there wasn't a need for the envelope opening. They just threw them out there on the table. This is what we'll do it for. And at the same time, not sure that we were required to take the lowest one, but it certainly made it a decision easier to look at those proposals. So, and actually, if I recall, there was actually a little negotiation towards the end with 2 of those particular proposals as to what percentages they were willing to go to. And it resulted in a little 0.5% reduction. And so that was a considerable amount of money, obviously, in the overall project. So that's still a possibility at this point with this proposal to be able to negotiate slightly once we get the 3 presentations or whatever they are.
Right. I think, Commissioner Bartley, one of the things that makes some sense to clarify at this stage is if we want to be able to talk to those consultants, the RCM at our professionals, about their pricing strategy in the shortlist interviews, then the 2-step approach doesn't work as well.
Okay.
So if you want that to enter into the discussion at the stage of interviews instead of after the fact, then we kind of need to scrap the idea of that 2-envelope system so that we can have that conversation and have it all out on the table in their proposal.
From your experience, I'm going to tap you for this, which results usually in the better proposal? The envelope or public presentation where they're going to give us your best shot publicly?
I don't know that one or the other results in a better proposal or a stronger price necessarily, because I don't think folks generally modify their price too much in this regard. The bigger thing is really understanding that they are being qualified first on their qualifications and their experience, and secondarily based on pricing. I think the original RFP had price at 25% of your total criteria, which starts to get into the scoring situation where you may unfairly weight the cheapest rather than the most qualified.
That's right. That's always a concern. Okay. I don't have a problem with this. I just have questions on.
Yep.
Make sure that we follow all state rules on the bidding process. And I know it was just a little bit different, but we did the scoring proposal was very similar to what we did here.
And so that the commissioners are all aware, the Office of the State Engineer doesn't even typically use that secondary envelope system. So the price is not a factor in the OSE's scoring sheet at all.
Right.
They're looking for absolutely the most qualified people to do the project.
That's how we handle this one too.
Yep.
Any other questions on that, or are we at a point where we continue to work on this and bring the proposal back? I imagine at some point we have to contact BKV and present our changes to it, or do we just write the whole proposal ourselves?
I don't think we were going to write the whole proposal ourselves. We're going to kind of take what they've had.
Okay.
I think we wanted to incorporate this scoring system, which is going to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to require that to make the changes in the rest of the RFP. The RFP is going to be changed based on this scoring sheet.
Okay. Without objection, that's where we'll move forward. You talked about a two-phase approach. Is this?
That is what that scoring sheet reflects, with the phased approach of opening that last envelope at the end.
Everybody comfortable with that approach? Okay, without objection, we'll try and get that proposals put together for next meeting, maybe. Okay, back to your report.
Really just the last thing, you can kind of read my report that I had on the leaks that we had over at the courthouse and in the basement of this building as well. You know, luckily we've been pretty fortunate. They were caught early enough that there wasn't a whole lot of damage to either things in the office. You know, some ceiling tiles will need to be replaced. We'll have to do some painting and some things, but it doesn't sound like overall it caused a whole lot of damage. But I do want to say some thank yous. Our two maintenance guys, Justin Johnson and Terrence Heidemann, they really did step up and help, and were there and came up with a process. When the attic in the courthouse was leaking, if you have been up there, it's up a number, it's the third floor of the courthouse, and then it's up another flight of stairs, and they were hauling, emptying totes with 5-gallon buckets and hauling those down to a big 50-gallon drum and wheeling that down to the elevator and down. Just, it was a process. So definitely want to thank them for all of their work. Alex Berkness with the Highway Department, I know Ryan's not here, but he came over to take a look. He actually had come in then several times overnight, Wednesday night, to empty totes. He's also a volunteer fire department with the Brookings Fire Department, and he looked at the situation and said, okay, let's call the fire department and get their like 100-foot boom ladder over here, and they were able to come and break up some of the ice dams that had developed on the roof of the courthouse and clear out some of those drains. And as soon as they were able to do that, everything slowed down dramatically. So that was a very, very big help. So I appreciate the work that they did and appreciate Alex, who then did still come in several times overnight, Wednesday night, to make sure everything was not overflowing any of the totes and buckets that were in place. And Jenny Hamrich, the circuit court administrator, she was there and helping as much as she could too. We had a small leak, really not even a small leak, but it was leaking around a pipe down in this basement too. And just by a series of circumstances, we were able to catch that about the time that it started, Wednesday, just before 5 o'clock. So actually Commissioner Bartley and myself and Michelle from my office, she stuck around. And that was traveling right down the road, so we kind of had to fashion a plastic garbage bag around this pipe to catch the water to filter it into a tote. Terry came in at about 7 o'clock, and it was just about, the tote had already filled up in about 2 hours, and then I came in bright and early Thursday morning, and it had overtopped the tote a little bit, but luckily we had cleared stuff off and nothing was damaged down the basement either. So it was an exciting couple of days there, but just appreciate everyone who really did step up and help with that process. And I know the sheriff's office had a couple of correctional officers, I think, that came over and helped as well. So just appreciate that, because at one point I thought, how are we ever, this all just needs to stop. It was very overwhelming at one point, but luckily we got through that. So hopefully the ice melts. We're going to be taking a look at that roof, obviously, this summer over at the courthouse and figuring some things out there. And the insurance adjuster came that Friday after, so about a week and a half ago, so we're working through that process too. But luckily, I think nothing damaged to the point where we can't probably fix it in-house anyway. So then other than that, I have just some of the upcoming dates that you can see on my report. Just a reminder that April 9th at our next meeting, we have the meeting that morning, and then we will do equalization boards at that afternoon, starting at 1 o'clock. The other thing that was scheduled, we did get our jail tour scheduled for April 10th. And I believe we're going to try to, I guess my question is, all the commissioners are able to attend. I know Sheriff Marty and Bart Sweeby are going to travel separately because they're going to meet with Bruce and Anthony with BKV afterwards and discuss some things. Did the board want to just reserve the Traverse and travel all together? Do you want me to do that? And I think what the plan was to maybe get there at about 10, so leave, plan on leaving by about 8 o'clock that morning. 7:30, 7:45, maybe. It's a little over 2 hours, I believe, to get to Olivia. But I can work on that. And then lastly, NACO, the national convention, is this summer, July 11th through the 16th. It's down in Clark County, Nevada, Las Vegas. Just wondering, the registration is open now. If anyone plans to attend, I need to know so we can get that process moving forward, because the host hotel tends to fill up quickly. So,
What are those dates again?
July 11th through the 16th, but I believe the 11th and the 16th I kind of put as maybe travel days. The conference, there's events going on the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. I know when we went last year, we traveled Thursday and Tuesday. And then the conference had events Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So travel days would be Thursday and Tuesday.
Does anyone plan on attending at this point?
Nope.
If no one attends, I may attend it just because of the resolutions I was a part of at the legislative conference and the candidates for offices. I attended some hospitality rooms and got to meet those people individually. And I certainly have some favorites, but I'd like to see the rest of their campaign. So I'll make that decision if no one else wants to go. We are budgeted. So. All right.
No? Okay.
We're budgeted for 2, usually.
I'd have to look if we budgeted for 2 or 3 maybe to
2 or
attend,
3.
or if it was maybe 3 and that included the Ledge conference that you have already attended, so.
Personally, I think the chairman should always go to the Ledge conference and the national conference when they're chairman, because there's an awful lot of information there that you can bring back. But anyway, anything else?
That is all I have.
All right.
I have a question, though, for Stacy. Sorry.
You have a question?
I do. When you were at the 10-county meeting, and they talked about the website statute and the ordinances, do we have a hard copy book of our ordinances?
Yes.
We do have paper?
In the finance office, yes.
And that gets up, so if we need to compare against, that's what we're doing is looking at that?
Yes, and I'm trying to get a meeting scheduled with kind of all of the parties that deal with our ordinances through the county to review that statute. That'll go into effect July 1st. It was House Bill 1215, I believe, where you have to have the most current version of, if you have your ordinance posted on your website, you have to have the most current version available. So I'm trying to set up a meeting with, I know the Planning and Zoning office, someone from the Highway Department, my office, Jenna, who, keeps, I think she's the keeper of the ordinance book, trying to get something together so that we're all on the same page and review what's there so that we are in compliance come July 1.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Stacy? Seeing none, we'll move on to commissioner reports. We'll start with Commissioner Pierce.
On March 12th, I attended the city council meeting along with Commissioner Bartley, and Commissioner Boersma was there also, and listened to the discussion regarding the fact that the city would is considering proceeding with legal action against the county. Then on March 19th, attended the joint jurisdiction meeting. Again, we're looking at reviewing the ordinance. We had a lot of conversations about the boundaries of the joint jurisdiction area at our last meeting, and when we're thinking that we might make those smaller than we originally thought, and there's going to be some recommendations coming. There was a subcommittee set up, and I'm on that subcommittee to reach out to Aurora and Bushnell. Aurora now has a planning and zoning commission itself, and state statute draws a line where how far we can go toward Aurora and how far we can go toward Bushnell unless we all agree differently, and we just want to talk about those boundaries. And I'm going to serve on that subcommittee. And then met with Stacy and Angie to talk about the RFP, which was really interesting, and Angie just had a lot of good information for us. Went to that 10-county meeting on March 20th and attended on March 23rd, the City of Brookings Legislative Forum that was put on by the Public Affairs Committee. Attended that here. And there was a really good turnout considering that there was a basketball game that morning. I was impressed with the number of people here. And that would be my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Boersma, your report?
March 12th, I was also at the city council meeting discussing the jail location. And then March 19th, met with Commissioner Pierce and Stacy on the jail RFP. I would draw folks' attention to the box folder for the jail. So if there are things that you are specifically interested in, I've put a handful of digital resources for commissioners to look at related to other communities' RFP processes, their scoring criteria, and then I'll also put the procurement state statutes in there, and best practices and white papers on best value versus qualifications-based selection so that folks have an understanding of that when we start talking about the next step of that process. And then Friday the 22nd, I think Bob might be interested in this. I had a meeting with folks from the National Weather Service about spotter training and storm chasers and all kinds of stuff. And so making citizens aware of the fact that there is training available if that's something they're interested in through the National Weather Service. I think, Bob, we could probably figure out how to get that out to folks here as we lead into summer storm season in particular. And then the March 23rd City Council candidate forum. So that's it.
Commissioner Krugman.
Yes, on the 20th, I wasn't able to make the 10-county meeting because I was also at had a couple meetings, communities of excellence, and also Research Park Building Committee. We met for 3 hours with a potential group on the Research Park, and so that was a good meeting, and I was glad I was able to attend that. And then on the 25th, Monday here, we had the BCOAC meeting, advisory board meeting at noon, and then I met with ICAP to discuss some possibilities, partnering with them locally, and then also Brookings Health last night. Brookings Health had their audit, everything came in good and looks good, so that was kind of what we hit yesterday, so that's all I have.
Commissioner?
On the 20th, attended the 10-county meeting, well attended, some good food over there and some good discussion. Had a few legislators were there also to give us some updates. On the 25th, had an advisory board meeting out at the OAC. I brought forward Jackie Lanning from the city engineering office, provided me with a set of plans, some just preliminary for the concrete parking lot to the north of the building, kind of an idea that she has, 6-inch reinforced concrete. I kind of gave her a dollar amount with what budget we would had for that parking lot. She's got a drawing here. Yesterday at our OAC meeting, we agreed to move forward with this project, but we'd also like to see a option with using asphalt. I stopped this morning, talked to Jackie a little bit. She's going to work on that, comparable strength of asphalt compared to the concrete, and put that kind of together and see what they come up with. She did agree that the city would handle the bid process, and we would it'd be attached to their annual concrete bid or whatever. I had Brian from the highway involved a little bit with his option and his just looking at it shortly. He guessed we'd gain only about 7,000 square feet with going with comparable asphalt applications. So it's we all know it's a wet area out there, and Jackie felt that the concrete's the best option, but we'd still like to see the asphalt option. I'll continue to work with her, and I'll bring forward more information as it comes forward. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner Pierce, you're going to win the question number tonight. You got it.
The plan that looking at, how is it dealing with the drainage issue on the parking lot? Is that being addressed? Or?
Yes, it is. It's I have a copy here. I was going to have Stacy bring it up, but it's kind of preliminary. I can show it to you. The existing sidewalk that is out there, it goes in front of those parking spots. There'd be an additional 13 spots going to the west with a sidewalk in front of that also. And between that sidewalk and the building, there would be somewhat of a retention pond that would drain out into the grove to the west. The elevations and everything she has figured out here. So everything would run west and then south into this drainage pond and then proceed west.
So we wouldn't drain into the city's storm drainage system. We would drain.
No, there's that option to go all the way across the parking lot over to it's too flat out there to get it to go that direction. It would basically just go to this corner and go out into the trees.
And if we go with that option, there was conversation at one time, and I don't know where we're at on that, where there would be a possibility of having a long gun tunnel underneath that area. Would we still have that capability, or does the drainage pond eliminate that?
The drainage pond is actually on the north side of the building between the parking. So.
Any other questions? All right, I'll begin my report with the NACO convention. I didn't get a chance to touch on last time. And again, the legislative conference was held in Washington, D.C., over 2,500 participants. There's a lot of committees. There's a lot of things you can attend. I attended most of the stuff related to mental health in jails as I was out there. We are not any different than any other county in the country in many respects, but there were some interesting ideas of how they deal with some of these things. And as I said once before, we're not going to arrest ourselves out of a opioid crisis. That's going to take education. It's going to take work on all fronts, mental health in particular, and obviously our entry facility for that is East Central Mental Health. Yeah, a lot of communities have that, and they have some other options that we'll look at down the road in the future as resources become available, because that's the biggest obstacle all over the country is resources to pay for these types of detention facilities or holding facilities. A lot of discussion out there on different resolutions on the national level. I'm not going to cover all those. Some of those resolutions were brought forward. There was always really good discussion on almost all of those. It was never a unanimous decision. There's differing views from different parts of the country, as you can imagine. But in the end, the resolution was adopted and moved forward for consideration at the national meeting here coming up in July. We did, Bob Hill and I, Bob taught me how to run the subways after an additional $12 expense because I was putting my pass on the wrong side instead of the right side, and couldn't figure out why my gate wasn't opening. So he stood over there and looked at me like I was an idiot. I bought another pass and I got through and rode the subway with Bob. We also did some touring of the NACO offices. It was pretty impressive downtown there. We also had an hour to explore. That was about it. We went to the National Air and Space Museum, between some meetings we had scheduled on the Hill. We also attended meetings Bob had scheduled with Dusty Johnson, John Thune, and Mike Rounds. We were welcomed by all the offices. Dusty was a little bit busy with a meeting at the time, an education committee meeting. He was a member of it, but he did come out into the hall and agreed to take our picture. It took a while to find a flag instead of garbage cans in the hall to take a picture in front of, but we got that accomplished. And Bob had some things, and I had some things we talked to the senators and the representatives about. In addition to that, we also had a fellow from West River, Clinton. I can't remember Clint's last name. Farley, interesting fellow. And he's a West River rancher, nice guy. He had some questions on the PILT program, the Payment in Lieu of Taxes program. And it was kind of interesting. There was a question about how those dollars were brought up in South Dakota and where the money was spent. And the NACO has a website called Explorer, and it has like 116 different overlays on every state and every county. And if you look at that and you can think of a question, there's probably an overlay that'll give you the data and the information. And they spend a lot of time and effort to keep that as up to date as they can. Obviously, they have to rely on federal data plus our state data plus our local data as they can get it. But it's a pretty impressive website, and I encourage anybody to go look at it if you've got questions. It kind of combines beacon type stuff with overlays, and you get right down to the nitty gritty of things. So anyway, the PILT information came out of Explorer, and I was impressed with that. They also had a program called Test It that they rolled out, and it's designed to basically test broadband capability in the entire country. And they call it Test It, and you can download it. It's free. It's run by NACO. Out of their national offices, they developed it. And if I can find my little Test It here. Essentially, what you do is you just turn it on and hit test, and it'll give you your upload speed, your download speed, the national average of both for wherever you're standing at the time. And you can tell whether you're above or below. The reason for that particular program to be developed was every carrier says, if I got one cell phone out in the middle of nowhere, I got coverage. Well, maybe not. They don't necessarily go out and test it. They just have an address in that area with a cell phone, so we have coverage. And what this does is allows, if they get enough participation over the next months or years, to really, when you press a test, it also goes to their website and they collect the data. So if you're somewhere and you don't think there's adequate coverage, run the test on Test It, and it's TEST, capital IT, is the app, and you'll know that there was any coverage at all and what speeds it was, and they will also know in DC. So they'll compile that data, which helps when you want to make broadband available in rural areas like South Dakota, where everybody claims they have coverage. We know it's not true. So if we can get everybody to test it on their phones and plug it in whenever you can do it at your desk 16 times, and it'll give it 16 times data because it uses your location on your GPS on your phone. So unless you don't want to give them that data, it's a pretty unique program. So those were two of the big things I brought out of the convention, in addition to meeting some very interesting people from around the country. In addition, I mentioned the candidates that are running for national office and first and second vice president. Obviously, they kind of move up the scale. You're electing a second vice president. The first vice president moves up to the presidency and so forth. So I was able to meet all those people and find out their views on things, which was interesting. In addition to that, on the 12th, I attended the city council's meeting and made comments based on my observations as a citizen, not as the chairman of the planning commission, or excuse me, county chairman. Also went over to the courthouse. Stacy gave me a call, went over there and watched the efficient work of the staff over there, moving buckets and tables and chairs to preserve the courthouse's fixtures and everything else. It was pretty impressive that everybody jumped in and took care of the problem. And I also got to see that act you're talking about, with some buckets out on the edge and a little board you could walk on, or don't step off, you go through into the second floor. Those were interesting areas to deal with, but they handled it very well. Thank you to Brian for getting his staff person out there that helped a lot, Alex. And Alex, of course, as Stacy had mentioned, got a cooperative effort with Chief Hartman, and they came out, and it was pretty impressive. They put that truck up there and up there busting out those drains, and that helped, saved a lot of damage to our courthouse. So we appreciate the city's help in that regard with Chief Hartman and those people. Also, I don't know if you know it, but Mike's got a couple of wooden caskets down in the basement, so we had to lift those up and put them on some buckets so they can get wet. I looked, they're empty, just to be sure. They weren't that heavy. I had no idea we had caskets in the basement, but they're obviously for burial purposes if VFW and the poor. So that Stacy did an amazing amount of work. I want to thank you, in addition to you thanking the other people, because you were on site and you got on the issue right away and got a hold of insurance companies, and everybody took care of that. On the 19th, joint jurisdiction, as you'd reported. Also on the 19th, right after that, we had the pre-disaster presentation. The first district was putting together a document. It looks like we're really close to getting that approved, and that moves on to the federal pre-disaster people. So the document should be ready. On the 20th, we had the 10-county meeting that you've already reported on. Always good to hear the legislators from another district, not ours, give a presentation on county bills and the things that affect us. And of course, we are aware of all of them affecting us, but good presentation. The only thing I guess I'll jump on is Commissioner Boersma talked about the spotter training. I did that program a couple years back, and it's really interesting to go through that storm spotter training. I got my little certificate that I could tell when it was a wall cloud and a funnel cloud and some other stuff. So much to my wife's chagrin, I'm out in the yard looking at clouds when it looks like storms. What are you doing? I said, I've been trained to do this. And it's actually interesting. I don't have a phone number to call, but it's still extremely interesting. I have not seen a wall cloud yet that's produced anything. So it's interesting training, and if you have an opportunity to do that, it's free. Just get a hold of Bob; he'll let you know when it is. And that completes my report, as long as it was. Motion to adjourn, or unless you have questions.
It's just been that
I should have known you'd have a question. Commissioner Pierce, you have a question.
You know, the fire department really did help us out on the courthouse. And I wonder, because we have some money in our PR fund, if we shouldn't, on one of their Tuesday night deals, send a cake over that says thank you or something like that, because they really went up and beyond for us, and getting rid of the ice jams did save the courthouse.
It did. But ice jams, a good cooperative effort. Also, in addition to that, I wouldn't mind sending a bunch of pizzas over to the staff at the courthouse. Did a phenomenal job of keeping that place dry as much as they could. I've never seen that many totes and buckets in my life. And one of them was filling up like it was a shower going on in the room. Like it was 10 minutes and it needed 5 buckets, 5-gallon bucket to drain it. It's pretty good response from those people. So I think it would be appropriate to do both. Without objection.
Everybody okay with that? Let Stacy give her another job. Could be next Tuesday. Is that county night next? Is it Tuesday?
That would be a great night to have that cake there.
Yeah.
Fireman's Feed, whenever that is. That's, yeah, it's, yeah. Okay. Anybody want to volunteer to bake the cake? I didn't think so. Okay. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're opposed, you can stay here. Thank you.